call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we'll be taking a look at one more collector's edition figure, and that is the Red Hood. Now more specifically, this is the Red Hood version where Joker is underneath the Red Dome. Going very far back into the DC Comics lore and going through a legend that does take place in different forms, like in animation, live action, and of course the DC Comics storylines, where the original old school version of the Red Hood is just a criminal. Of course, his name is unknown, but eventually he does get dropped into a vat of chemicals and eventually reveals himself to be the Joker. Now, I gotta be honest, wasn't really expecting much, although I did get this in the pack from the McFarlane toy store. This was pretty much my least anticipated figure of the bunch, but surprisingly, once again, it is a lot more fun than I thought it would be. Added my own little details, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now, he does look pretty insane in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, the only difference is this one being from the collector's edition, he does have a stamped silver DC logo. You also get his data file card on the front. You have a classic image of the Red Hood. Going back to the earlier history of DC Comics, pretty nice image though from those classic covers. On the back, you do have some information. Now, as I spoke about before, the history and backstory of this Red Hood is very murky and has a lot of intrigue. Now, I would really recommend going back and watching the Batman Brave and the Bold storyline where they show the Red Hood. This is a pretty awesome storyline, and you get to see it played out, with motion and animation. Another thing to look up is The Killing Joke, which was Bolden's version of the story behind how the unlikely criminal became Prince of Crime, the Joker. So pretty cool. We'll hold on to that. Now he does come with a limited amount of accessories. Of course, you get this classic looking switchblade, although the handle could be painted in black. You could see what they were going for. The little switchblade knife, very street, very classic, down and dirty street thug weapon. You also get this crossbow gun. Haven't seen this before, so this is pretty cool to get. Although it is, of course, painted all in the same silver tone. And you get a sickle. Has nice detail, but once again, being painted all in the same color kind of loses its luster, but we'll also hold on to that. And of course, he does come with the card stand. I'm, waiting for the day when we no longer see these because I just put them in a box. They're not really anything I look forward to having in my collection. And now let's go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. Now, this is going to be pretty quick. Won't go too much into this articulation because it is basically the same body book we have seen with a lot of the Jokers. Although there are some details not too happy about, but it still gives you that old school feel that they were going for with this Red Hood. Now, we have seen this figure before with DC Direct, but it's very limited. You don't really see a lot of this version of Red Hood figures. So that is one thing I really do appreciate. But first impressions, right away you do get that more formal feel from the original Red Hood with the suit and the cape, and of course the dome head. One big glaring thing is all the old school images of the Red Hood, he has a bow tie. And I did look into it. McFarlane does have a mold where he basically has a bow tie, at least more than this more bolero tie that he has on here. And that is from the version that we got from McFarlane Toy Stores, where they had the gimp mask and the alternate Joker head. That'll pretty much swing around towards the end of the video. Now, while I do understand that that is a detail that would really make this figure complete, and that just goes back to the figures are always usually almost perfect except for one detail, and that keeps, McFarlane at his, breaking through to be an awesome action figure DC line. Just those little details. I don't understand it, but eventually, hopefully, we'll get there. But on the other side, I also understand that if you're just a buyer, a consumer, you're not really going to notice a detail like that. For somebody who just wants a Red Hood figure for their desk, this basically fills in the spot. But looks pretty good. Take a look closer at the dome. It's not transparent or anything like that. It has more of a paint job of like our Red Hood that we received from McFarlane, a metallic kind of glistening paint job. Really almost get a reflection off of it, which is really nice. You do have that holding the cape down, which is another nice touch, but it does limit the dome articulation. Now you can move it from side to side and can get the feeling that he is, you can pose him around slightly, but looking down and looking up is pretty much out of the question. But this is to be expected by the shape of the dome and the way it sits on the head. Now, as far as the rest of the figure, as I said, your basic Joker body that we've seen before, suited, pretty nice, limited waist articulation. You got the white gloves and the all black suit going down into the legs, into the spats of the shoe, which is classic, but really nothing remarkable. So that's why I said on first hand, this is kind of a bland figure, except for the added detail of the hood and the articulated wire cape, which you can see here in the back lays pretty nicely and is very malleable and posable with the added wire on the underside. But that is basically it for this figure. I mean, standard Red Hood. Now, once again, I did pull out fun that I originally didn't expect with this figure. I gave him an extra accessory, which is one of the wrenches from the first appearance of Batman figures that was purple. I did paint it. And for some reason, I felt it just fit with him. For some reason, like he doesn't have, great gadgets. He just has, your typical weapons. And that brought out something else is that he is very fun to pose and take pictures of. You can use the assortment of weapons that he has. Although he is missing alternate hands, I ended up finding that you could use the alternate penguin hands that come with the penguin. They fit right onto this figure, and they still have that gloved look. But that does give you some ideas for alternate hands. Now, the dome does pop off pretty easily. It's not hard to take off, which kind of makes me feel like since this was a collector's edition, they should have just added an alternate Joker head. Now, we've received tons of Jokers. I have them up here. I looked through all of them. And although people may think, one head works better than the other, I had to go with that same head I was talking about earlier from that exclusive McFarlane toy set. Now, I did have an extra one of these because I bought two of those figures to display both heads. And that is why I have turned around my, I don't want extra heads with my figures. It's fine now because I can see how they can be used for fodder. And all in all, it is a better value to get the extra heads. So I did go ahead and repaint this head because it had like a dark gray skin tone originally. and I wanted to have more of just your classic Joker look. And this head also does pop onto this figure pretty easily, and it fits very well. Now, this gives a lot of added fun to this figure. You can definitely get a lot of poses, get a lot of figure photography, which is something I did have fun with. If you follow me on Instagram, you could see I went a little bit crazy for a couple of days, just having a lot of fun with this custom head on this Red Hood body. You can add the hood there with them for an accessory, but definitely takes this figure up a notch just to have an alternate Joker head. Now, while I do think that McFarlane really needs to step up these collector's editions, more hands would have been really appreciated. No card stand, and maybe a little guardrail like from the chemical plant where he falls into the vat. Anything else besides that card stand and definitely an alternate head would have just made this figure really complete. Now, that is one thing about the collector's edition. You do not see them in the biggest mass market store, which of course is Walmart. So these are made in definitely a smaller number, and you'll see them more like at FYE, at Best Buy, even Target. But that does bring the number down of how many they make to spread out throughout all of the stores. But anyways, guys, I definitely, had more fun than I thought I would. I love customizing these figures and adding my own little touches. But you guys, keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.